crossed an ocean to crush a rebellion, and instead he lost half an empire. He was one of Britain's finest generals. Sent to break the American revolt in the South, he won victory after victory, and marched north certain the long war was almost over. But on a narrow Virginia peninsula, the sea he trusted turned against him. A French fleet sealed the bay, 2 armies dug in around him, and there was no escape. This is the story of the losing side. To understand how a winning general lost everything, we must go back to a long and bitter war. For 6 years, Britain had fought to hold 13 rebellious colonies across the sea. In the north, the war had sunk into a deadlock that neither side could break. So Britain turned south, hoping those colonies were full of loyal men ready to rise for the king. To lead this bold new plan, they chose an aggressive and gifted commander, a lord named Cornwallis. He was a career soldier, brave and tireless, hungry to end the war with one great victory. Under him, a small British army set out to conquer the vast southern colonies one by one. Above him stood his cautious superior far away in New York, and the two would never truly agree. A whole American army surrendered there, and the king's cause seemed to sweep all before it. A whole American army surrendered there, and the king's cause seemed to sweep all before it. At Camden, he shattered a second American army and scattered it in wild retreat. The South lay open, and it seemed the rebellion in these colonies was all but finished. But behind the victories, the country did not rise for the king as London had promised. Rebel bands melted into the forests and swamps and struck the British again and again. A new American general took command in the South, patient and cunning, and refused open battle. He led the British on a long and exhausting chase across flooded rivers and rough country. Cornwallis burned his own supply wagons to march faster, staking everything on catching his foe. At last, at a place called Guilford Courthouse, the two armies met in a savage fight. Cornwallis won the field, but a fourth of his men lay dead or wounded upon it. It was a victory that ruined the victor. One more battle he could not afford to win. His army was worn to the bone, far from the coast, and bleeding in a hostile land. Rather than turn back, he marched north into Virginia, chasing a war he still believed he could win. He was sure one bold stroke there might yet crush the revolt for good. In Virginia he raided and marched, but the rebels always slipped away before him. His distant superior ordered him to seize a harbor and send part of his army back north. The orders were confused and contradictory, and Cornwallis grew bitter and uncertain. At last he was told to fortify a deep water port and wait there for the fleet. He chose a small tobacco town on a river, a quiet place called Yorktown. There his men dug long lines of earthworks and redoubts, and settled in to wait. He trusted that the Royal Navy ruled the sea, and would bring him rescue, or escape. For the whole war, British ships had come and gone as they pleased along that coast. Cornwallis saw no reason to fear a trap, with the open ocean at his back. But far away his enemies had seen their chance, and were already moving to spring it. The fortress he was building would become the pen in which his army was caught. If the fall of the confident moves you, take 1 second to subscribe, and stand with the losing side. Near New York, the American commander watched and waited for one perfect moment. That leader was who had held his ragged cause together through years of defeat. Now a powerful French army had joined him, and a great French fleet was sailing north. The fleet came not from Europe, but from the warm islands of the distant Caribbean. Washington left campfires burning to fool the British, and marched his armies hard for the south. By the time the enemy understood, the Allied host was already racing toward Virginia. The French fleet reached the bay first, and sealed the mouth of the sea road to Yorktown. A British fleet arrived to break through, and the two navies fought off the capes. The battle was hard, and in the end, the British ships drew off and sailed away. With that, the door of the sea slammed shut, and Cornwallis was truly trapped. No rescue would come, no escape by water, no army marching to his relief. Around Yorktown, the Allied armies dug their siege lines and dragged up their heavy guns. 16,000 men now ringed his 8,000, and the ground began to shrink. The general who came to conquer was now the one besieged, penned against the river. The great guns opened, and day and night the shells rained down upon the town. The earthworks were torn apart, ships in the river burned, and the men crouched in the ruins. The siege lines crept closer, trench by trench, tightening around him like a slow noose. 2 forward redoubts blocked the final approach, and they had to be taken by storm. In the dark, American and French soldiers stormed them with the bayonet and took them both. Now the last defenses were open, and the guns could fire into the heart of the town. Cornwallis tried one desperate gamble, to ferry his army over the river by night and break out. But a sudden storm scattered the boats, and the last hope of escape was swept away. His men were exhausted, his walls were crumbling, and no help would ever come. There was nothing left for the proud general but to ask his enemy for terms. On an autumn day, the British marched out to lay down their arms before the victors. It is said the bands played an old tune called "The World Turned Upside Down." Cornwallis himself did not come, pleading illness, too proud to yield his own sword. In his place an officer offered the blade, and even that the Americans quietly refused. Some 8,000 of the king's soldiers passed into captivity on that single day. The finest army Britain had in America had surrendered on a muddy Virginia field. The war was not yet formally over, but its heart had been broken in one siege. When the news reached London, the Prime Minister took it like a cannonball to the chest. He cried out again and again that all was over, and soon his government fell. Britain had no will left to keep fighting for colonies an ocean away. 2 years later, a treaty was signed, and the 13 colonies were finally free. A new nation was born, and the greatest empire on earth had lost its richest possession. The rebellion Cornwallis had come to crush had founded the United States. Cornwallis was never truly blamed for the disaster that had ended the war. Men knew he had been let down, left stranded on the coast while the Navy failed him. He had begged for a clear plan and been given only confusion and empty promises. He had trusted the fleet to hold the sea, and the sea had betrayed that trust. The general who won every battle was undone by the one thing he could not command. He would serve his king again and win great fame and power in distant India. But no later triumph could ever wipe away the surrender on that Virginia field. He had come to save an empire and had presided over the loss of half of it. The bold stroke that was meant to end the war had ended Britain's America instead. He had gambled everything on a rescue from the sea, and the sea never came. And so on a narrow peninsula, a winning general found the grave of the losing side. This has been the story of the losing side,